There we go. Now we're unmuted. Hello, everyone. I was just about to say something, but I totally forgot what I was about to say. So that's no good. Welcome everyone to another depressing read of Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. Everyone get your tea. I got my tea steaming right now in its mug. Love that. Hope you guys are all warm today because it's still a little chilly, but it was 30 degrees and it felt like a tropical paradise outside because it's been freezing here. But I hope you guys are doing good. How's it going? How are you guys liking Wuthering Heights so far? And Michael, no, we will not be reading fast for the first time in my life. That will never happen. You got your misery steeping in despair. I love it. Here for the tea of the book, the tea of the gossip, and the tea, the good tea. Man, I really gotta get sponsored by a tea company. That would be the way. That would be the sponsorship for this channel. You know what I mean? Just today, I'm drinking chai from yada yada yada. I don't know. It's okay if you write nonsense. It's all right. No problem with you writing nonsense. I was thinking before I was starting the stream as I was steeping my tea. This is not a great Valentine's read, but it is a great February read. I feel like this book is a February book, at least so far. I didn't know other YouTubers did that. They start their own tea or coffee business that fails in a few months. I didn't know that. But I definitely feel like this book is a February read. So far we got cold, snowy weather. Sorry, I'm trying to backtrack and figure something out. I gotta clear my throat again. I need some kind of device that clears your throat for you. One second, let me mute myself. Gross. There's a bike YouTuber who roasts his coffee. I don't know any of the drama yet. I feel like we haven't had that much drama in this book yet. It's just been, I mean, I guess there has been drama. The first 3 chapters were just not a likable character in sight. Everyone is grumpy. And it's kept me intrigued onto what's really happening. I will say that. It's a good read so far. But just no likable characters. The drama is coming. Are we gonna get the drama in these chapters? Because I'm excited for some drama. I think I can get you some drama. Yeah, honestly, I do, Ivana. I'm with you. I think the intrigue is getting me through this though. Like I've just been thinking about these 3 chapters for a while, and I'm thinking about what is going to come after. How did these people get that way? It's a really great thing to do for these. Just for creating intrigue, you write miserable characters, and all I want to know is how did they get to be this miserable? One of the early complaints when it was first published was the lack of any kind of moral. Interesting. There are characters you love to hate. There are characters you just hate. I don't know which one these are yet. Maybe I'll love to hate these people. I kind of doubt it. I feel like these are just going to be characters I come to hate. Can't stand them. But you don't always have to like characters for it to be good. There's a ton of characters that I don't like, think are great, but are still compelling characters. At least just good, like almost good book club characters. I think this is why this is like a fun book club, because we get to discuss a complicated character. Like obviously other characters are complicated. Like Pride and Prejudice has very complicated characters, but this one just has a lot of grumpy characters, and we get to ask why these characters are grumpy. There is an end with a note of hope. Interesting. I just hope we don't get that much more of Joseph talking. I could do without Joseph talking for the rest of this novel, and I'll be all right. Anybody with me on that one? All right, we're gonna start reading in a few because we got a bunch. We got a lot of reading got to get done tonight. We're not gonna have much time, or no, we have a lot of time, but I don't want to spend 5 hours on this book. Yeah, I need decompression from this book. I got to read it in chunks, and need to just stop. It's only slightly harder than regular English. Joseph's an interesting character. I wonder if Kathy's going to be likable. I kind of doubt it. I feel like there's not going to be any likable characters in this. Give me one person who's somewhat likable. I don't know if we're gonna get that. I gotta let my tea cool. It's too piping hot right now. But anyway, I wonder if I gotta find a website that gives off like seasonal reads. The moral of the story is that you just need to stay ahead of John. Yeah, I feel like that's kind of fun. If you guys read like right before I'm about to do my own read, if you guys read and do a few chapters in front of me, that is fun, because then you just get to hang out with me as I'm reading and discovering this for the first time. You have a copy on Audible and the Joseph parts. Interesting. That's actually really fascinating. I feel like that'd be hard to do on Audible. Maybe they just have a Yorkshire guy come. She does seasonal reads, but nothing seasonally depressing. I gotta find more who these booktubers are, because I'm out of the booktube community. I'm in the Lord of the Rings community, but not in the booktube community yet. I gotta figure out who some of these booktubers are. I know maybe one or two, but that's about it. Also, I got a sharpened pencil. Makes me happy. Dare I say, should we start? I need to wind myself up before we start reading these. And today's read, I mean, honestly, this book does feel like a night read, to be honest. But I will do morning reads. Today was just hectic and I wasn't able to do a morning read. But I think we'll do the next read maybe on Friday. Friday morning. We'll do a morning read on Friday. We're going to do till chapter 7. We got a bunch of reading. 30 pages, 30-some pages. It's depressing, though. We're going to read 30 more pages, but we still have a lot left of this book that we have to grunt through. All right. We're going to get to reading, guys. Actually, let's wait 3 minutes. Let's do it at 5:45. Let's read. What chapter are you guys up to? Let me know what chapter you're up to. Please keep reading the endnotes. Your $3 copy has no such niceties. That's a $3 copy, though, so that's hard to beat. Is that just like a genuine $3 classic copy, or is that like used? Chapter 2, page 2 of chapter 4. Interesting. You're reading along, not ahead. I like it. No, no. I don't think you're supposed to read ahead. But I feel like if you read ahead, you just get to like hang out while we read. You don't have to focus so much. You just get to like enjoy my squirming. You're at chapter 8. Interesting. Okay. Yours is free from Project Gutenberg. That's the way to go. Honestly, that's the way to go. I like it. All classics are kind of free online somewhere. Ooh, chapter 9. Read until chapter 7. Excellent. You're starting chapter 9. I will read the endnotes. I'll keep reading the endnotes, but unless they're like, some of the endnotes are helpful. I'm kind of with both of you on that. I do like endnotes for certain things. Endnotes need to explain things to me well. I don't like a lot of endnotes. Has anybody tried to read Infinite Jest? That book has so many endnotes. And I think I got through like a third of it before I was like, this is just getting dumb. And I couldn't do it anymore. So I like endnotes to a point. And I know it has to be purposeful. It needs to explain something I would have not have known. And if it does that, then I'm happy. If it says like, something stupid, the author just wanted me to know, who cares? I'll read that later. That's my take on that. All right, it's 5:45. All right, guys. If it's not a foot, you ignore it. Endnotes as a thing are evil. Footnotes are way better than endnotes. I will totally agree with you on that. I do not like endnotes. Yeah, that's why I thought I was the same. Some of the endnotes in this were a little unnecessary. Like they didn't actually Like they need like maybe 2 in each chapter. And it's shocking that they don't have a translation for Joseph for an endnote. They should do a footnote for every single thing that Joseph says, so I can actually understand it. That seems wild. But yeah, footnotes are better than endnotes. You're just being contrarian. All right, without further ado, we're going on to chapter 4. I feel like I should read this with like a soundscape in the back of like snow and thunder. You know what I mean? It just feels like that. It feels like this is a dark and stormy night, and we needed to read it in a moody atmosphere. I will not be an expert in the Yorkshire dialect, I guarantee you on that. But I appreciate the vote of confidence. I'm glad that I make it entertaining. That's what we got to do. Got to make these wild books entertaining. Ooh, I love a good ebook that you just click on something and it takes you to the end note. You imagine the wind, but not thunder. Honestly, a good like wind soundtrack could be kind of good. Ooh, Wes is yapping over there. He's even nervous of what we're gonna read. All right, everyone, open your books to page 4. What does Snape say? 394 or something like that. We're in chapter 4 of Wuthering Heights. My page 33. The preeminent scholar of Yorkshire accents. Maybe we'll read The Secret Garden after this. It'll be kind of fun. All right, here we go. Chapter 4. So, hold on. What did we just read? So this Flint Lockwood goes back to his place, and he bids them to be quiet because he has his coffee and he warms himself up. All right, here we go. Oh, no. Everyone take a deep breath. We'll get through this together. Oh, everyone liked the stream. How did I forget that? Everyone liked the stream. Come on, guys. Here we go. I hope so, Kathy. I hope so. What vain weathercocks we are. What a line. What vain weathercocks we are. I, who had determined to hold myself independent of all social intercourse, and thanked my stars that, at length, I had lighted on the spot where it was next to impracticable. I, weak wretch, after maintaining till dusk a struggle with low spirits and solitude, was finally compelled to strike my colors. We already have an end note. Sorry, guys. An end note. I need to just have my. I need to put a. I'm gonna put the bookmark in this. In the end note section. The end note says, strike my colors, naval terminology referring to the striking of a ship's colors or flag in sign of surrender. Interesting. That's a good end note. I like that end note. Till dusk, struggle with low spirits and solitude, was finally compelled to strike my colors. And under pretense of gaining information concerning the necessity of my establishment, I desired Mrs. Dean, when she brought in supper, to sit down while I ate it, hoping sincerely she would prove a regular gossip, and either rouse me to animation or lull me to sleep by her talk. What an extrovert. I need someone to eat dinner with me. You have lived here a considerable time, I commenced. Did you not say 16 years? 18, sir. I came when the mistress was married, to wait on her. After she died, the master retained me for his housekeeper. Indeed. There ensued a pause. She was not a gossip, I feared, unless about her own affairs, and those could hardly interest me. So this guy's just out trying to get some tea, trying to get a little gossip. However, having studied for an interval with a fist on either knee, and a cloud of meditation over her ruddy countenance, she ejaculated. A lot of people ejaculate in this. That is a verb that I am happy has kind of gone out of style with speaking. She's used that way too much for, like, I'm sometimes a boring dialogue tag person. I think you can include a fun dialogue tag, but mostly just say she said. I just don't want to think about her ejaculating this. Times are greatly changed since then. Yes, I remarked. You've seen a good many alterations, I suppose. I have, and troubles too, she said. Oh, I'll turn the talk on my landlord's family. I thought to myself. A good subject to start. And that pretty girl window. I should like to know her history. Whether she be a native of the country, or, as is more probable, an exotic that the surly indigene will not recognize for kin. With this intention, I asked Mrs. Dean why Heathcliff let Thrushcross Grange and preferred living in a situation and residence so much inferior. Okay, interesting. So Thrushcross Grange is nice, guys. Wes is hanging out for the read. Look at that little cutie. So Thrushcross Grange is nicer than Wuthering Heights. I thought that was kind of the opposite, but I guess he's staying in a nicer spot than Heathcliff. The narrator is annoying. Is he not rich enough to keep the estate in good order? I inquired. Rich, sir, she returned. He has nobody knows what money, and every year it increases. Yes, he's rich enough to live in a finer house than this. But he's very near, close-handed, and if he had meant to flit to Thrushcross Grange as soon as he had heard of a good tenant, he could not have borne to miss the chance of getting a few hundreds more. It is strange people should be so greedy when they are alone in the world. What a astute line. First really great line that I love. It is strange people should be so greedy when they are alone in the world. Dang. I really love that. You highlighted it. I love that. Michael, thanks for the $5. A bog is a nicer place than Wuthering Heights. 100%. I'd rather live in a bog. Yeah, I like this little maid. What's her name? I think we just... Mrs. Dean. I like Mrs. Dean. Okay, Mrs. Dean, come on. Please stay likable. Don't say something crazy and ridiculous. That makes me hate you. He had a son, it seems? Yes, he had one. He is dead. And that young lady, Mrs. Heathcliff, is his widow? Yes. Where did she come from originally? Why, sir, she is my late master's daughter. Catherine Linton was her maiden name. I nursed her, poor thing. I did wish Mr. Heathcliff would remove here, and then we might have been together again. Okay, so she does like the young Mrs. Heathcliff. She's a late master's daughter. Catherine Linton was her maiden name. What is the young Heathcliff's name again? The young girl. I forgot what her name was. I just know her as Mrs. Heathcliff. Do we know her name yet? I just forgot. We're not told yet? Okay. Mrs. Heathbar. I think it's... I have a feeling it's going to be Kathy or Catherine. What? Catherine Linton, I exclaimed, astonished. But a minute's reflection convinced me it was not my ghostly Catherine. Then, I continued, my predecessor's name was Linton? It was. And who is that Earnshaw, Hareton Earnshaw, who lives with Mr. Heathcliff? Are they relations? No, he is the late Mrs. Linton's nephew. The young lady's cousin, then? Yes, and her husband was her cousin also. One on the mother's, the other on the father's side. Heathcliff married Mr. Linton's sister. I need a family tree. Do we have a family tree here? I think we had one in the beginning of this. Okay, here we go. Should I look at this family tree yet? Genealogical table. Don't know if I should look at this fully yet. I'm gonna hold off on looking at this family tree. You know what? Okay, this would be a genius idea for a website. They need to make some kind of website that guides you through books but does not give you any spoilers. Like, I want a family tree of what I know at this point. I don't want to write it myself. Like, I want to piece this together in my head at where I am at in this book and not have any spoilers for what comes after. Interesting. I like that Dark has one of those. Okay, interesting. Okay, so we have Mrs. Linton. We have Catherine Linton. Hold on. Her husband was her cousin. And the young lady's cousin then. And her husband was her cousin also. One on the mother's, the other side of the father's side. The other on the father's side. Heathcliff married Mr. Linton's sister. Okay, I'll figure this out as we go. Yes, and her husband was her cousin also. Oh no, I just read that. I see the house at Wuthering Heights has Earnshaw carved over the front door. Are they an old family? Very old, sir. And Hareton is the last of them. As our Miss Cathy is one of us. I mean, of the Lintons. Have you been to Wuthering Heights? I beg pardon for asking, but I should like to hear how she is. Mrs. Heathcliff. She looked very well. And very handsome, yet, I think, not very happy. Oh dear. I don't wonder. And how did you like the master? A rough fellow, rather, Mrs. Dean. Is not that his character? Rough as a saw edge, and hard as a whinstone. What's a whinstone? What's a whinstone? Like a whetstone? Like a sharpening stone? Wait, what do you mean we're just skipping the fact that her name was Linton? That was one of the names that was written on the it's a hard stone for buildings. Interesting. Okay. Did not know that. Whinstone. So Linton, I need the family tree. I need to write this out. I need a piece of paper. I'm just going to write this in my book above this chapter. Okay, here we go. Okay, guys, help me out with this family tree. So right now, this is what we have. The horns of Gondor are calling. The horns of Wuthering Heights are saying, don't come back and come visit us. Okay, so we have Catherine. Cathy Linton. Who seems like the main character here. The diary had a date of 25 years prior, and Catherine Linton is not that old. Interesting. Okay, so this is generational stuff. So is that her mother? Oh no, I feel like I knew that. Okay, hold on, time out. This is what my understanding is right now. That that the diary wasn't obviously. I need to figure out names. Gosh, this is gonna be rough. Catherine Linton. So this is what I think this is right now. So it's Catherine Linton and Heathcliff, but her maiden name was, hold on. Let me, guys, this is already brutal. I feel like this is basic too. I should just know this. Okay, and what Catherine Linton? I exclaimed. Okay, so hold on. Why, sure, she is my late master's daughter. Catherine Linton was her maiden name. Okay, so Catherine Linton was Heathcliff's maiden name. So she became a Heathcliff. Married, so they're cousins. I nursed her, poor thing. Then we might have, but a minute's reflection. And then my predecessor's name was Linton. So Heathcliff had some siblings. Heathcliff had to have some siblings. The shelf had 3 names written on it. The book, only 1 name. Oh, okay. Yeah, I just gotta keep reading. I don't think I'm really that confused. I think I'm just making myself confused. Okay, thank you. That helps a little bit. All right, here we go. Let's keep reading. I think I'm just getting confused over things I shouldn't be confused at. The less you meddle with him, the better. He must have some ups and downs in life to make him such a churl. You know anything of his history? It's a cuckoo, sir. I know all about it, except where he was born and who were his parents and how he got his money at first. And Hareton's been cast out like an unfledged dunnock. Dunnock hedge sparrow. The unfortunate lad is the only one in all that parish that does not guess how he has been cheated. Well, Mrs. Dean, it will be a charitable deed to tell me something of my neighbors. I feel I shall not rest if I go to bed, so be good enough to sit and chat for an hour. Oh, certainly, sir. I'll just fetch a little sewing, and then I'll sit as long as you please. But you've caught cold. I saw you shivering, and you must have some gruel to drive it out. The worthy woman bustled off, and I crouched nearer the fire. My head felt hot, and the rest of me chill. Moreover, I was excited, almost to a pitch of foolishness, through my nerves and brain. This caused me to feel not uncomfortable, but rather fearful, as I am still, of serious effects from the incidents of today and yesterday. She presently returned, bringing a smoking basin and a basket of work, and having placed the former on the hob, drew in her seat, evidently pleased to find me so companionable. Before I came to live here, she commenced, waiting no further. Nellie's long narrative begins here. The device of an outer masculine narrative framing a central feminine narrative can also be found in Anne Bronte's second novel, The Tenant of Wildfell Hall. Yeah, we're getting this is Inception right now. We're getting a story within a story. You were a young lass reading for the first time. You had no genealogy. Honestly, it would be fun to just sit and that's just not the best content. I just can't sit here and write a genealogy. If I was reading this by myself in the dead of night, I'd be sketching this whole thing out right now. I'd be rereading this chapter 5 times. Oh, it's your favorite Bronte book? I love that. That's great. All right, let's keep reading. Before I came to live here, she commenced, waiting no further invitation to her story. I was almost always at Wuthering Heights because my mother had nursed Mr. Hindley Earnshaw. That was Hareton's father. Okay, I really need a piece of paper. I'm just going to write it in my book. I'm going to write it in the first page of my book. Okay, we're going the first little bit we get. Hindley Earnshaw, Hareton's father. Sires Hareton. I don't know who his wife is yet. All right, there we go. Got those two names down. And I got used to playing with children. I ran errands too, and helped to make hay, and hung about the farm ready for anything that anybody would set me to. One fine summer morning, it was the beginning of harvest. I remember Mr. Earnshaw, the old master, came downstairs, dressed for a journey, and after he had told Joseph what was to be done during the day, he turned to Hindley, and Kathy, and me, for I sat eating porridge with them, and he said, speaking to his son, "Now, my bonny man, I'm going to Liverpool today. What shall I bring you? You may choose what you like, only let it be little, for I shall walk there and back 60 miles each way. That is a long spell." Hindley named a fiddle, and then he asked Miss Kathy. She was hardly 6 years old, but she could ride any horse in the stable, and she chose a whip. He did not forget me, for he had a kind heart, though he was rather severe sometimes. He promised to bring me a pocketful of apples and pears, and then he kissed his children goodbye and set off. His children, Miss Kathy, they're siblings? Wait, Miss Kathy and Earnshaw are cousins. No, they're not siblings. Hold on, I need some tea. I need to warm up a little bit. I'm already feeling the chill of this novel. This is another Kathy. How many Kathys are in this novel? Okay, so this is a different Kathy. So I'm going to just do Kathy ? So Hindley Earnshaw has two children, Hareton Earnshaw and a unnamed, or not unnamed, Kathy Earnshaw. Lots of Kathys. Kathy Earnshaw is the sister of Hindley Earnshaw. Wait. Married to Hindley? I thought that was his child. Why do I feel like this is a puzzle or a maze right now? Maybe you're ahead of me a little bit. Kathy Earnshaw is the sister of Hindley Earnshaw. Yeah, I'm just going to keep reading. Thanks, June. Mrs. Earnshaw expected him by... it seemed a long while to us all, 3 days of his absence. And often did little Kathy, little Kathy, ask us when he would be home. Mrs. Earnshaw expected him by supper time. On the third evening, and she put the meal off hour after hour. There were no signs of his coming, however, and at last the children got tired of running down to the gate to look. Then it grew dark. She would have had them to bed, but they begged sadly to be allowed to stay up. And just about 11 o'clock, the door latch was raised quietly, and in stepped the master. He threw himself into a chair, laughing and groaning, and bid them all stand off, for he was nearly killed. He would not have such another walk for the 3 kingdoms. At the end of it, to be flighted to death. Flighted. Variously suggested as frightened or beaten. He said, opening his greatcoat, which he held bundled in his arms. See here, wife. I was never so beaten with anything in my life. But you must e'en take it as a gift of God, though it's as dark almost as if it came from the devil. We crowded round, and over Miss Cathy's head I had a peep at a dirty, ragged, black-haired child, big enough both to walk and talk. What? He just found a child? Huh. Big enough both to walk and talk. Indeed, its face looked older than Catherine's, yet when it was set on its feet, it only stared round, and repeated over and over again some gibberish that nobody could understand. I was frightened, and Mrs. Earnshaw was ready to fling it out of the doors. She did fly up, asking how he could fashion to bring that gypsy brat into the house, when they had their own bairns to feed and fend for, what he meant to do with it, and whether he was mad. The master tried to explain the matter. The mystery of Heathcliff's childhood and the relentless cruelty that develops in his character is perhaps anticipated in Emily's poem of 1839, The Soft, Unclouded Blue of Air. Shall we read? This is a cool little note. But did the sunshine even now, that bathed his stern and swarthy brow, oh, did it wake, I long to know, one whisper, one sweet dream in him, one lingering joy that years ago had faded, lost in distance dim. That iron man was born like me, and he was once an ardent boy. He must have felt in infancy the glory of a summer sky. I mean, that doesn't really help me all that much. I'd have to sit and analyze that poem. Yeah, I was thinking about the Three Kingdoms too. Is that... Yeah, I was going to guess England, Scotland, and Wales, maybe? Maybe? Someone look that up. If he has horses, why is he walking? This seems weird. It's a great question. The master tried to explain the matter, but he was really half dead with fatigue, and all that I could make out amongst her scolding was a tale of his seeing it starving and houseless and as good as dumb in the streets of Liverpool, where he picked it up and inquired for its owner. I mean, don't like that they're calling it a child an it, but not a soul knew to whom it belonged, he said. And his money and time being both limited, he thought it better to take it home with him at once than run into vain expenses there, because he was determined he would not leave it as he found it. Well, the conclusion was that my mistress grumbled herself calm, and Mr. Earnshaw told me to wash it, and gave it clean things, and let it sleep with the children. All right, let's stop calling this child an it. Let's call this child a he. Maybe this is the first issue that they're gonna... I'm guessing this is Heathcliff. The first issue that Heathcliff is gonna have is they just kept calling me it when I was a child. What is it, a Sasquatch? Hindley and Cathy contented themselves with looking and listening till peace was restored. Then both began searching their father's pockets for the presents he had promised them. The former was a boy of 14 when he drew out what had been a fiddle, crushed to morsels in the great coat. He blubbered aloud, and Cathy, when she learnt the master had lost her whip in attending on the stranger, showed her humor by grinning and spitting at the stupid little thing, earning for her pains a sound blow from her father to teach her cleaner manners. Interesting. Yikes. Can someone I just want to pause just for a quick second. Can someone define what a gypsy is according to Emily Bronte? At that time, what is a gypsy technically? Like, I think in our language, someone who travels, someone who's like a vagabond. What is a gypsy technically in this time? Who is saying it? Mrs. Dean or Mr. Earnshaw? Interesting. Actually, that's great. A Romani? Okay, interesting. A Roma person. Like Roma as in Rome. Comes from Egyptian etymology, but it's an ethnically distinct group. Yeah, I like kind of know what it is, but I don't at the same time, you know? Like I'm trying to hammer down what that actually is. They were very socially disabling. I mean, it's these. This is weird because, like, the children are just strange. They seem spoiled, but now not. I don't know. Word Egypt, even though they weren't really. The Romani people are a traveling group originating in India that traveled to Europe. Okay, interesting. In their language too, it's a traveler or a vagabond. Yeah, I think is it. Yeah, I do think that he is kind of ambiguous. To me he seems like Northern Africa, like Mediterranean, like a little more olive skin than Jacob Elordi. Like Jacob Elordi is like whiter than me. But interpretations. I don't know how you can get at that interpretation, but that's for another discussion. They entirely refused to have it in bed with them, or even in their room. And I had no more sense, so I put it on the landing of the stairs, hoping it might be gone on the morrow. By chance, or else attracted by hearing his voice, it crept to Mr. Earnshaw's door, and there he found it on quitting his chamber. Enquiries were made as to how it got there. I was obliged to confess, and in recompense for my cowardice and inhumanity was sent out of the house. This was Heathcliff's first introduction to the family, on coming back a few days afterward, for I did not consider my banishment perpetual. I found they had christened him Heathcliff. Okay, interesting. It was the name of a son who died in childhood. Little confused now? Hold on. Let me try to figure this out real quick on my own, and then I'll talk about it. Let me just talk about it. Hindley Earnshaw has 2 children. Hareton and Kathy. Hareton's already been in the book, but why is Hareton younger than Heathcliff? Or am I just misreading that character? Or is there another Heathcliff? There's only one. Hareton is slightly older. Okay, interesting. So Hareton Earnshaw. Hareton and Kathy aren't siblings. But didn't it say that? Like, that was what confused me. So it says this. Let me find this real quick. It says, yada, yada, yada. Nursed Hindley Earnshaw, Wuthering Heights, because my mother had nursed Hindley Earnshaw. That was Hareton's father, and I got used to playing with the children. Oh, okay. I'm misreading this. So, okay. So she just said that was Hareton's father. And she's used to playing with Hindley. So she's Hindley's age. So Hindley was playing with Mrs. Dean. He goes, Mr. Earnshaw. Okay, I have my family tree wrong. He turned to Hindley and Kathy. So Hindley and Kathy are siblings. Okay, I think that's what you guys were telling me before. Hindley. Earnshaw. What's sorry. What is their father's name again? Is it Hindley too? Or is it just Mr. Earnshaw? I'm just going to put Mr. Earnshaw for now. Okay, I was reading that wrong. And then adopted, I'm going to do dotted lines for Heathcliff. Okay, we're on it. We got it, guys. Hindley and Nellie Dean. Okay, Nellie Dean. Thank you. All right, here we go. Let's keep going. Where are we? This was Heathcliff's first introduction to the family. On coming back a few days afterward, for I did not consider my banishment perpetual, I found they had christened him Heathcliff. So they're starting to use actually him now. It was the name of a son who died in childhood. Oh, interesting. And it had served him ever since, both for Christian and surname. He's Heathcliff? No. The master is Mr. Earnshaw. Okay, yeah. So his name's Heathcliff. Mr. Heathcliff. Miss Kathy and he were now very thick. But Hindley hated him. And to say the truth, I did the same. And we plagued and went on with him shamefully, for I wasn't reasonable enough to feel my injustice. And the mistress never put a word in on his behalf when she saw him wronged. He seemed sullen. He seemed a sullen, patient child, hardened, perhaps, to ill treatment. He would stand Hindley's blows without winking or shedding a tear, and my pinches moved him only to draw in a breath, and opened his eyes as if he had hurt himself by accident and nobody was to blame. This endurance made old Earnshaw furious when he discovered his son persecuting the poor fatherless child, as he called him. He took to Heathcliff strangely, believing all he said. For that matter, he said precious little, and generally the truth, and petting him up far above Kathy, who was too mischievous and wayward for a favorite. This is strange behavior. Named after a child that died. Really sounds like he was a changeling. It does seem strange that you would recycle a name like that. Like, I don't know. I don't know. Like Gaga or Madonna. Just Heathcliff. Huh. Interesting. Yeah, Michael, give me a little synopsis of changelings in Celtic mythology. I'll read another few paragraphs. This endurance made old Earnshaw. Oh, yeah, I read that. So from the very beginning, he bred bad feelings in the house. And at Mrs. Earnshaw's death, which happened in less than 2 years after, the young master had learnt to regard his father as an oppressor rather than a friend, and Heathcliff as a usurper of his parents' affections and his privileges, and he grew bitter with brooding over these injuries. I mean, yeah, I get it. I sympathized a while, but when the children fell ill of the measles, and I had to tend them, and take on me the cares of a woman at once, I changed my ideas. Heathcliff was dangerously sick, and while he lay at the worst, he would have me constantly by his pillow. I suppose he felt I did a good deal for him, and he hadn't wit to guess that I was compelled to do it. However, I will say this: he was the quietest child that ever nurse watched over. The difference between him and the others forced me to be less partial. Kathy and her brother harassed me terribly. He was uncomplaining as a lamb. Through hardness, not gentleness, made him give little trouble. Though hardness, not gentleness, made him give little trouble. Now that's interesting. That's a sad idea, because he's just so well acquainted with pain, probably, in his life. Like how he was walking and talking. So how old was he when they abducted him? Was he 2 years old, 3 years old? I would probably say about 3. He barely talked, but he could talk. I know walking and talking is 1, but I feel like he would be a little bit older than that if he was able to walk up to doors and stuff like that. Fairy children switched with actual children. Interesting. Not if he's an illegitimate child. Oh, interesting. Whoa, that's blowing my mind now. So he went away to Liverpool probably because he had a mistress. Had he taken that journey before? Did he say that was his first journey or not? So was he going and cheating on his wife, and then there was a child there, and then he realized that his mistress maybe died or something, or didn't want the child anymore, so he took it back and is caring for it? I got that feeling, but I would explain why Mr. Earnshaw brought him home. It would. That just seems so strange that he would just bring home a child that he sees in the streets. I don't know of many people that would do that. I mean, maybe. He doesn't seem that, he was stern. Maybe he would do this because he really thought he was being noble about it. Yeah, and names him after a son who died. That's interesting. I really like that theory, actually. That's so interesting. Let me write that down real quick. That's a really interesting theory. I like that, actually. Well done. All right, let me keep reading. He got through, and the doctor affirmed it was in great measure owing to me, and praised me for my care. I was vain of his commendations, and softened toward the being by whose means I earned them. And thus Hindley lost his last ally. Still, I couldn't dote on Heathcliff, and I wondered often what my master saw to admire so much in the sullen boy who never, to my recollection, repaid his indulgence by any sign of gratitude. He was not insolent to the benefactor. He was simply insensible, though knowing perfectly the hold he had on his heart. And consciously, he had only to speak and all the house would be obliged to bend to his wishes. As an instance, I remembered, Mr. Earnshaw once bought a couple of colts at the parish fair, and gave the lads each one. Heathcliff took the handsomest, but it soon fell lame, and when he discovered it, he said to Hindley, "You must exchange horses with me. I don't like mine, and if you won't, I shall tell your father of the 3 thrashings you've given me this week, and show him my arm, which is black to the shoulder." Hindley put out his tongue and cuffed him over the ears. "You'd better do it at once," he persisted, escaping to the porch. They were in the stable. "You will have to, and if I speak of these blows, you'll get them again with interest." "Ugh. Off, dog," cried Hindley, threatening him with an iron weight, used for weighing potatoes and hay. "Throw it," he replied, standing still, "and then I'll tell how you boasted that you would turn me out of doors as soon as he died, and see whether he will not turn you out directly." Yikes! Hindley threw it, hitting him on the breast, and down he fell, but staggered up immediately, breathless and white. And had not I prevented it, he would have gone just so to the master, and got full revenge by letting his condition plead for him, intimating who had caused it. "Take my colt, gypsy, then," said young Earnshaw, "and I pray that he may break your neck. Take him and be damned, you beggarly interloper, and wheedle my father out of all he has. Only afterwards show him what you are, imp of Satan, and take that. I hope we'll kick you out of your brains." Imp of Satan. So does that go along with Michael's theory a little bit? Like, is that another theory that he's a changeling? Because if this is happening in the moors in northern England, is there a possibility that they had this understanding that he potentially thinks that this kid is a changeling? So Hindley is 14 and Heathcliff is 7. That's kind of crazy. Yeah, that is another option, that it is just racism. Seems it does seem like sibling rivalry, and he's just being racist here. It's an interesting idea. Imp of Satan is strong terminology. Heathcliff had gone to loose the beast and shift it to his own stall. He was passing behind it when Hindley finished his speech by knocking him under its feet, and without stopping to examine whether his hopes were filled, ran away as fast as he could. I was surprised to witness how coolly the child gathered himself up and went on with his intention, exchanging saddles and all, and then sitting down on a bundle of hay to overcome the qualm which the violent blow occasioned before he entered the house. I persuaded him easily to let me lay the blame of his bruises on the horse. He minded little what tale was told, since he had what he wanted. He complained so seldom indeed of such stirs as these, that I really thought him not vindictive. I was deceived completely, as you will hear. Interesting. Uh-oh. I was deceived completely, as you will hear. I like these theories that you guys have. Legit. She can't see what she did wrong. Interesting. Yeah, mythology was reason for racism too, for sure. That's really fascinating. I feel like it could be like, I feel like the combination of both of those things. Like he thinks he's a changeling because he's a gypsy, and that's like showing racism toward this guy. Toward really I guess his half brother. Is christening adopting into the family? What is christening essentially? Like, it's the Catholic rite, but is that what they're talking about when they christen him into the family? Naming it baptism? Okay. Just giving him his Christian name? Okay, interesting. Okay. Yeah, Anglican, okay. She was super awful to Heathcliff and doesn't see that. Um, That's interesting. They're just not this is extreme bad sibling behavior. At the moment, that's kind of how I'm interpreting it. I think Hindley is definitely more in the wrong here because he's the one that's initiating the terrible treatment of Heathcliff. Like, if he just loved Heathcliff and potentially wasn't racist, then none of this would have happened. Maybe if he grew up in a loving home. So that's sad. Heathcliff does know how to use this to his own advantage. He grew up hardened. So I think he clearly knows how to use these things to his own advantage. And because he knows he's growing up in his father's favor, he knows how to use that to his advantage against Hindley. It just no one's healthy. Yeah, Hindley is old enough to know better for sure. Yeah, I think most of the blame does go on Hindley here for just resenting the fact that, honestly, most of the blame goes on the father. Maybe, I mean, like I don't think, I mean, blame. I don't think we can put blame on anyone right now. I mean, we can. I don't think it's gonna be that helpful. I think people are just, everyone's just dysfunctional. Like, the father, potentially, if this is a illegitimate child, just feels guilty, brings it into the home. The wife doesn't want it. This would explain why the wife doesn't want it so deeply. Baptisms were not performed on illegitimate children because christening certificate had to be both mother and father on it, and parents had to be married. So I wonder how Heathcliff was christened. Did the father maybe just like force the mother's hand to be christened? That's an interesting question. Maybe they just did their own little christening ceremony, which you can't really do, but he was more mad that his present got broken than he had a new brother. I guess that's a shocker to have a new brother at that age when all of a sudden it just pops up. Yeah, maybe they do just mean named in that instance. I'm kind of more with that theory that it just means a name, that it doesn't mean really the Anglican rite of baptizing the child. It would be valid with a Trinitarian formula. Interesting. Yeah, maybe they just did say he was legitimate. It could be in anything. That's why, like, I don't know, like, the narrators in this are just strange. Like, we're getting a story within a story, which makes me not trust really anything that's happening here. But it's their stories. So, all right, let's read chapter 5. I like this. We're getting a little bit more drama. We're getting some meat and potatoes here, which I like. Nellie, what's her last name? Nellie Dean. I like Nellie. But we're getting Nellie's story written by Lockwood. So, I don't know, Lockwood's just, He's just bobbing around. He's just a weird dude. In the course of time, Mr. Earnshaw began to fail. He had been active and healthy, and his strength left him suddenly. Weird. And when he was confined to the chimney corner, he grew grievously irritable, and nothing vexed him, and suspected slights of his authority nearly threw him into fits. Like paranoia. And suspected slights of his authority nearly threw him into fits. Weird. This was especially to be remarked if anyone attempted to impose upon or domineer over his favorite. He was painfully jealous lest a word should be spoken amiss to him, seeming to have gotten into his head the notion that because he liked Heathcliff, all hated and longed to see him an ill turn. This just lends me to think I think the two options are that he had this child with this mistress and that he loved the mistress more than his wife, or he's not well in the head and he picks up this child off the street and then ends up loving it more than his own children, which I don't mind. Like, okay, like picking a child up off the street and adopting it into your home, that's one thing. Loving it more than your own children is maybe a little unhealthy. Maybe just a little bit. I don't know. Just me. That's why I think maybe the illegitimate thing is more correct here. Maybe, but then that's still just not healthy if he just feels a unique connection with it and he doesn't feel that unique connection with his own children. That's just still not normal behavior. Then he's just trying to play the savior than really be a good father. Interesting. Okay, let's keep reading. This is a short chapter. It was disadvantageous to the lad, for the kinder among us did not wish to fret the master, so we humored his partiality. And that humoring was rich nourishment to the child's pride and black tempers. Still it became, in a manner, necessary. Twice or thrice Hindley's manifestations of scorn, while his father was near, roused the old man to a fury. He seized his stick to strike him, and shook with rage that he could not do it. At last, we had a curate then who made the living answers. Living answers. Made his clerical income sufficient. Okay, interesting. We had a curate then who made the living answers by teaching the little Lintons and Earnshaws and farming his bit of land himself. He advised that the young man should be sent to college, and Mr. Earnshaw agreed, though with a heavy spirit, for he said Hindley was not and would never thrive as where he wandered. I hoped we should. Are they talking about? He advised that the young man being Hindley, and Mr. Earnshaw agreed, though with a heavy spirit, for he said Hindley was not and would never thrive as where he wandered. Interesting. I hoped heartily that he should have peace now. It hurt me to think the master should be made uncomfortable by his own good deed. I fancied the discontent of age and disease arose from his family disagreements, as he would have had it that it did. Really, sir, it was in his sinking frame. We might have got on tolerably notwithstanding, but for two people, Miss Cathy and Joseph the servant. You saw him, I dare say, up yonder. He was, and is yet, most likely the wearisome, self-righteous Pharisee that ever ransacked a Bible to rake the promises to himself and fling the curses on his neighbors. By his knack of sermonizing and pious discoursing, he contrived to make a great impression on Mr. Earnshaw. And the more feeble the master became, the more influence he gained. That's so interesting. I did not imagine Joseph to be this kind of person. Really weird. He was relentless in worrying about him. He was relentless in worrying him about his soul's concern and about ruling his children rigidly. He encouraged him to regard Hindley as a reprobate. And night after night, he regularly grumbled out of a long string of tales against Heathcliff and Catherine, always minding to flatter Earnshaw's weakness by heaping the heaviest blame on the last. Certainly she had ways with her, such as I never saw a child taken up before, and she put all of us past our patience 50 times and oftener in a day. From the hour she came downstairs till the hour she went to bed, we had not a minute's security that she wouldn't be in mischief. Her spirits were always at high water mark, her tongue always going, singing, laughing, and plaguing everybody who would not do the same. A wild wick slip she was. Lively. Wick means lively. A wild, lively slip she was. But she had the bonniest eye and sweetest smile, and lightest foot in the parish. And after all, I believe she meant no harm. For when once she made you cry in good earnest, it seldom happened that she would not keep you company, and oblige you to be quiet, that you might comfort her. She was much too fond of Heathcliff. The greatest punishment we could invent for her was to keep her separate from him. Yet she got chided more than any of us on his account. This is a psychological mind melt. Man. Now, Mr. Earnshaw did not understand jokes from his child. Oh, hold on, I skipped a paragraph. In play, she liked exceedingly to act the little mistress, using her hands freely, and commanding her companions. She did so to me, but I would not bear slapping and ordering, and so I let her know. Now, Mr. Earnshaw did not understand jokes from his childhood, or from his children. He had not been strict and grave with them, and Catherine, on her part, had no idea why her father should be crosser and less patient in his ailing condition than he was in his prime. His peevish reproofs wakened in her a naughty delight to provoke him. She was never so happy as when we were all scolding her at once, and she defying us with her bold, saucy look, and her ready words, turning Joseph's religious curses into ridicule, baiting me, and doing just what her father hated most, showing how her pretended insolence, which he thought real, had more power over Heathcliff than his kindness, how the boy would do her bidding in anything, and his only when it suited his own inclination. After behaving as badly as possible all day, she sometimes came fondling to make it up at night. Nay, Cathy, the old man would say, I cannot love thee. Thou art worse than thy brother. Go say thy prayers, child, and ask God's pardon. I doubt thy mother and I must rue that we ever reared thee. He's talking like a church person talks. Like Joseph has really gotten into his head to talk about like his own sense of religion, and he's worrying about his soul. He's talking about prayers now. Joseph reminds you of Samuel L. Jackson's character. Yeah, thou is still the familiar pronoun, but still. He wasn't saying that before when he was talking to his children. He was just talking like normally. That's sad. I cannot love thee. Thou art worse than thy brother. Go say thy prayers, child, and ask God's pardon. I doubt thy mother and I must rue that we ever reared thee. That made her cry at first, and then being repulsed continually hardened her. And she laughed if I told her to say she was sorry for her faults, and begged to be forgiven. But the hour came at last that ended Mr. Earnshaw's troubles on earth. He died quietly in his chair one October evening, seated by the fireside. A high wind blustered round the house and roared in the chimney. It sounded wild and stormy, yet it was not cold, and we were all together, I a little removed from the hearth, busy at my knitting, and Joseph reading his Bible near the table, for the servants generally sat in the house then, after their work was done. Miss Cathy had been sick, and that made her still. She leant against her father's knee. Isn't her father dead? She leant against her father's knee, and Heathcliff was lying on the floor with his head in her lap. What am I missing there? Oh, just telling the story of how he died. Okay, so a little flashback. That came out of nowhere. I guess not. I guess it's just kind of since it's a flashback. That was weird. Okay. After this chapter, I want to talk about their parenting for a second. It's interesting. I remembered the master before he fell into a doze, stroking her bonny hair. It pleased him rarely to see her gentle, and saying, "Why canst thou not always be a good lass, Cathy?" And she turned her face up to his, and laughed, and answered, "Why cannot you always be a good man, father?" Ooh. Ouch. But as soon as she saw him vexed again, she kissed his hand, and said she would sing him to sleep. She began singing very low till his fingers dropped from hers, and his head sank on her breast. Then I told her to hush and not stir, for fear she should wake him. We all kept as mute as mice a full half hour, and should have done longer. Only Joseph, having finished his chapter, got up and said that he must rouse the master for prayers and bed. He stepped forward, and calling him by name, and touched his shoulder, but he would not move. So he took the candle and looked at him. I thought there was something wrong as he set down the light, for seizing the children each by an arm, whispered to them to frame upstairs. Hurry. And make a little din. They might pray alone that evening. He had somewhat to do. I shall bid father good night first, said Catherine, putting her arms around his neck before we could hinder her. The poor thing discovered her loss directly. She screamed out, Oh, he's dead. Heathcliff, he's dead. And they both set up a heartbreaking cry. I joined my wail to theirs, loud and bitter, but Joseph asked what we could be thinking of to roar in that way over a saint in heaven. He told me to put on my cloak and run to Gimmerton for the doctor and the parson. I could not guess the use that either would be of then. However, I went through the wind and rain and brought one. The doctor back with me. The other said he would come in the morning. Leaving Joseph to explain matters, I ran to the children's room. Their door was ajar. I saw they had never laid down, though it was past midnight, but they were calmer and did not need me to console them. The little souls were comforting each other with better thoughts than I could have hit on. No parson in the world ever pictured heaven so beautifully as they did, in their innocent talk. While I sobbed and listened, I could not help wishing we were all there safe together. Their innocent talk. Emily Bronte's poetry frequently refers to the solace derived from notions of an afterlife. I do not weep, I would not weep. The Gondel poem dated December 1841, for example, the speaker declares, Our mother needs no tears. Remember still she is not dead. She sees us, Gerald, now, laid where her angel spirits fled, mid heath and frozen snow. And from that world of heavenly light will she not always bend to guide us in our lifetime's night and guard us to the end? Weird. How did he die? And what was Joseph going to do? Was he going to do like unction or something? And it's also weird to me why, I guess it's just a difference of mindset. A doctor comes immediately, but the rector waits till the morning. I guess because one knows that, he needs to go figure out the death. There's a time on it, and the other knows that there's not necessarily a time on whatever rites he needs to do. Was Hindley gone at this point? If it were a Catholic country, the priest would come immediately. Interesting. Yeah, Michael, we'll see you in the next one. So Hindley's gone at this time. So Hindley's at uni. Okay. I must have missed that he left. But would Joseph try to do some kind of unction? Like, what was Joseph going to do? Was he just going to, set the body on, was he just going to try to respect the body? It for a second there, I was thinking there was some kind of, foul play. Was he just trying to get the children away so that they wouldn't see? Was this, just from what I know of Joseph in the first 3 chapters, I feel like everything that everyone does in this novel now is with, maliciousness. Malice. Also known as malice. He had summit to do. Anglicans would be iffy on whether confession or anointing were sacraments. Yeah, I feel like it probably would be protecting the children, but Joseph was weird in the first 3 chapters, so I think his character doesn't necessarily lead me to believe that he's just trying to be benevolent with the kids. But maybe he was at this point. And I guess because he thinks he's even what's her name's diagnosis of him. He's like rich. He thinks of himself a lot. He thinks like everything is for him, written for him. It's a weird way of thinking, or it's just like an interesting way of talking about a person. Huh. Yeah, maybe lay out the body before rigor sets in. That's what I was kind of thinking. Maybe put him up on the table or something like that. Just interesting stuff happened in the novel so far. Everyone is just dysfunctional. Strange that the father brought Heathcliff into the house. Strange that they named him Heathcliff. Strange that he like estranges his two children because he loves Heathcliff more than them. Just not the healthiest people so far. Just strange stuff going on. All right, let's go chapter 6. Mr. Hindley came home to the funeral, and a thing that amazed us and set the neighbors gossiping right and left. He brought a wife with him. Oh, interesting. What she was and where she was born, he never informed us. Probably she had neither money nor name to recommend her. He would scarcely have kept the union from his father. She was not one that would have disturbed the house much on her own account. Every object she saw, the moment she crossed the threshold, appeared to delight her, and every circumstance that took place about her, except the preparing of the burial and the presence of the mourners. I thought she was half silly from her behavior while that went on. She ran into her chamber and made me come with her, though I should have been dressing the children. And there she sat, shivering and clasping her hand and asking repeatedly, "Are they gone yet?" Then she began describing with hysterical emotion the effect it produced on her to see black, and started, and trembling at last fell a weeping. And when I asked her what was the matter, answered she did not know, but felt so afraid of dying. I imagined her as likely to die as myself. She was rather thin, but young, and fresh complexioned, and her eyes sparkled as bright as diamonds. I did remark, to be sure, that mounting the stairs made her breathe very quick, that the least sudden noise set her all in a quiver, and that she coughed troublesomely sometimes. But I knew nothing of what these symptoms portended. Is it just going to tell me what pretended means? These symptoms pretended. Hindley's wife exhibits the symptoms of tuberculosis or consumption, the disease which was to claim the lives of both Emily and Anne Bronte within 6 months of each other. It's sad. That's sad. Yeah, generational trauma is the name of the game. But that's an interesting, Tamara, that's an interesting idea too. Joseph being the only adult in the house, maybe, but still, I just feel like everyone is, I just assume the worst of everyone in this novel so far. So, I don't know. Let me keep reading. It had no impulses to sympathize with her. We don't, in general, take to foreigners here, Mr. Lockwood, unless they take to us first. Young Earnshaw was altered considerably in the 3 years of his absence. He had grown spare, and lost his color, and spoke and dressed quite differently. And on the very day of his return, he told Joseph and me we must thenceforth quarter ourselves in the back kitchen, and leave the house for him. Indeed, he would have carpeted and papered a small spare room for a parlor, but his wife expressed such pleasure at the white floor, and the huge glowing fireplace, and the pewter dishes, and the delf case, the cupboard for crockery, and dog kennel, and the wide space there was to move about in, where they usually sat, that he thought it unnecessary to her comfort, and so drop the intention. She just likes an open concept kitchen. That's all she likes. Jennifer, what's up? Welcome, welcome. Yeah, a little troublesome cough. Not a great idea in this book. You're about to die if you have a troublesome cough. She expressed pleasure, too, at finding a sister among her new acquaintance, and she prattled to Catherine and kissed her and ran about with her, and gave her quantities of presents at the beginning. Her affections tired very soon, however, and when she grew peevish, Hindley became tyrannical. A few words from her, evincing a dislike to Heathcliff, were enough to rouse him in all his old hatred of the boy. He drove him from their company to the servants, deprived him of the instruction of the curate, and insisted that he should labor out of doors instead, compelling him to do so, as hard as any other lad on the farm. Ah, that's not good. There's a point. I think there's a fair point, I guess, for how you interpret the novel. I think this is like the damning qualities that racism can have on a person, or potentially even the idea of getting revenge on a person. Like how revenge is just something that causes issues for generations. Like the father was wrong in the whole situation, but the father loved one child more than another. And Hindley just cannot let that go. It just eats him up. And so he wants to get revenge on his brother. And that will just cause issues for millennia. Yes, Megan, welcome. I will give sassy commentary anytime. I'm glad. That's actually one of my favorite things that this is doing too, is it's making this book a bit more palatable for everyone. I actually am really enjoying it. I think it's a really well-written book, and there's issues of generational trauma here that I think I don't fully understand, because I think my parents did a good job of cutting some of that out. But it's interesting. One of my friends, they like this more than Pride and Prejudice, and they have a lot of generational trauma in their family. So it's interesting to me now that she would actually like this book more than Pride and Prejudice. She wrote her master's thesis on Jane Austen too, and she said the other day she liked Wuthering Heights more than she liked Pride and Prejudice. I gotta talk to her more about this. This is interesting. Revenge and racism can do. Let's keep reading. Wuthering Heights equals the House of Grudge. Grudge is a good word for it, honestly. I actually like that. When you have a grudge on someone, how it can deteriorate you. You don't think I like it more than P&P, but I don't hate it like many people do. That's good. I like that. It's a balanced opinion. He bore his degradation pretty well at first because Kathy taught him what she learnt, or worked, or played with him in the fields. They both promised fair to grow up. Grow up as rude as savages, the young master being entirely negligent how they behaved and what they did, so they kept clear of him. He would not even have seen after their going to church on Sundays. Only Joseph and the curate reprimanded his carelessness when they absented themselves, and that reminded him to order Heathcliff a flogging and Catherine a fast from dinner or supper. Wait, hold on. Let me reread this. There's something I missed here. He bore his degradation pretty well at first because Kathy taught him what she learnt and worked or played with him in the fields. They both promised fair to grow up as rude as savages, the young master being entirely negligent how they behaved and what they did, so they kept clear of him. He would not even have seen after their going to church on Sundays. Only Joseph and the curate reprimanded his carelessness when they absented themselves. And that reminded him to order Heathcliff. Wait, so is Joseph reprimanding the master for not letting them go to church, or for not punishing them for not going to church? Does my question make sense? That doesn't make any sense for sure. Hindley Hindley is not really their father, but he's not really a good parental figure right now. He's like a child still. He's not a great guy. I don't really like him all that much. So Joseph's mad for not making them go to church. Okay. For not making sure that they got to church. Hindley got crap from Joseph if they skipped church. Okay. Yeah, what is their age here? Do we have any indication of their age? I would guess maybe 18. Hindley is 18, 19. And the other ones are maybe 10 years old. Hindley beat them for not going. Okay, interesting. All right, that makes sense. Because I was like, is Joseph mad now that they're still sneaking off to church and that he's not and that Hindley's not punishing them for disobeying Hindley? Because that'd be weird from Joseph. But that makes more sense that he's mad at them for not going to church. But it was one of the chief amusements to run away to the moors in the morning and remain there all day. Emily had a deep attachment dating back to her earliest childhood to the moors, which backed on to the family parsonage at Haworth. Beautiful. And after the punishment grew a mere thing to laugh at, the curate might set as many chapters as he pleased for Catherine to get by heart, and Joseph might thrash Heathcliff till his arm ached. They forgot everything the minute they were together again. At least the minute they had contrived some naughty plan of revenge. And many a time I've cried to myself to watch them growing more reckless daily. And I not daring to speak a syllable for fear of losing the small power I retained over the unfriended creatures. It's interesting. They're just running free. I'm going to guess that this is the two that fall in love. But they're falling in love over something that's tragic that's going to happen right now, which is they're just being neglected. They're trauma bonding. I'm going to guess that these two are going to fall in love, like half siblings. Maybe not. Maybe it's a different Kathy. There's, a lot of Kathys here. There's an essay about trauma bonding in here. I can't do that until I finish the novel, though. Because I don't know if they get together here. I don't know really the disastrous causes that this will bring about. I don't know. Yeah, they were best buds before their father died, but they still were kind of beaten a little bit, and they were not preferred. Heathcliff was preferred, so maybe that's a good point. They had an initial burst of friendship, but I think now that they're kind of trauma bonded because they're both being neglected. That is a good point that they were still best buds before the father died. Man, talk about a different book from Pride and Prejudice. This is brutal. This is all over the place. Okay, let's keep reading. I don't mind the narration, but right now we're watching the story through, I feel like we're watching the story through like cracked windows, through little holes in the walls. And we're not getting the actual account of what's happening. That's why it's just strange to me. This is, I want to sit down with these kids and overhear a conversation that they have. you know? But we don't get that. Maybe we'll get that later. Maybe Nellie's going to sit down with them and be like, we had this conversation and this is what they said. I kind of love that. I feel like I need that right now. One Sunday evening, it chanced that they were banished from the sitting room for making a noise or a light offense of the kind. And when I went to call them to supper, I could discover them nowhere. We searched the house, above and below, and the yard and the stables. They were invisible. And at last, Hindley, in a passion, told us to bolt the doors and swore nobody should let them in that night. Gosh, Hindley is a loser. That's true. We did get the description of heaven. Yeah. And Nellie doesn't really like them all that much. So, yeah. She's definitely biased against them. The household went to bed, and I, too anxious to lie down, opened my lattice and put my head out to hearken it. Though it rained, determined to admit them in spite of the prohibition should they return. In a while, I distinguished steps coming up the road, and the light of a lantern glimmered through the gate. I threw a shawl over my head and ran to prevent them from waking Mr. Earnshaw by knocking. There was Heathcliff by himself. It gave me a start to see him alone. "Where's Miss Catherine?" I cried hurriedly. No accident, I hope." "At Thrushcross Grange," he answered, "and I would have been there too, but they had not the manners to ask me to stay." Interesting. Again, racism against gypsies here. "Let me get off my wet clothes and I'll tell you about it, Nellie," he replied. I bid him beware of rousing the master, and while he undressed, I waited to put out the candle. He continued, "Kathy and I escaped from the wash house to have a ramble at liberty, and getting a glimpse of the Grange lights, we thought we could just go and see whether the Lintons passed their Sunday evenings, standing shivering in corners. Kathy and I escaped from the wash house. Catherine Earnshaw. I escaped from the wash house to have a ramble at liberty, and getting a glimpse of the Grange lights, we thought we would just go and see whether the Lintons passed their Sunday evenings standing shivering in corners while their father and mother sat eating and drinking and singing and laughing, and burning their eyes out before the fire. Do you think they do? Or reading sermons and being catechized by their manservants and set to learn a column of scripture names if they don't answer properly? Are they going to be... Is Kathy going to be abducted, taken to Thrushcross Grange, and like adopted by the Lintons? Probably not, I responded. They are good children, no doubt, and don't deserve the treatment you receive for your bad conduct. You can't, Nellie, he said. Nonsense. We ran from the top of the heights to the park without stopping. Catherine completely beaten in the race because she was barefoot. You'll have to seek for her shoes in the bog tomorrow. We crept through the broken hedge, groped our way up the path, and planted ourselves on a flower pot under the drawing-room window. The light came from thence. They had not put up the shutters, and the curtains were only half closed. Mrs. Dean should have realized Heathcliff would keep a grudge. What's up, Kendrick? You could maybe gather some info from this. It's a I don't know how to describe where we are. Hindley locked them out of the house. Oh, Lou, that's okay. Go look after your mom. That's probably better than hanging out and reading Wuthering Heights. Although we're getting a lot of trauma, we're getting a lot of details going on here. We're somewhere in the bog for sure. The bog of this book. It feels a little. One thing that I really like about this novel right now is it does feel a little mystery-like. Like it's a bit horror-ish in the first. Now it feels like you're trying to figure out stuff and wade through things, and it feels a little bit mysterious, like we're trying to gain enough clues to figure out what happened. I like that. I still feel like I need a shower after this, but I like it. Both of us were able to look in standing on the basement. And clinging to the ledge, we saw, it was beautiful. A splendid place carpeted with crimson. And crimson-covered chairs and tables and a pure white ceiling bordered by gold. A shower of glass drops hanging from silver chains from the center. And shimmering with little soft tapers. Old Mr. and Mrs. Linton were not there. Edgar and his sister, maybe the sister's name is Kathy, had it entirely to themselves. Shouldn't they have been happy? We should have thought ourselves in heaven. And now, guess what your good children were doing. Isabella, I believe she is 11, a year younger than Kathy, lay screaming at the farther end of the room, shrieking as if witches were running red-hot needles into her. This is really horror. Edgar stood on the hearth, weeping silently. In the middle of the table sat a little dog, shaking its paw and yelping, which from their mutual accusations, we understood they had nearly pulled in two between them. Oh, the idiots. Agreed. That was their pleasure, to quarrel. Who should hold a heap of warm hair? And each beginning to cry because both, after struggling together, refused to take it. We laughed outright at the petted things. We did despise them. When would you catch me wishing to have what Catherine wanted? Or find us by ourselves seeking entertainment and yelling and sobbing and rolling on the ground, divided by a whole room? I'd not exchange for 1,000 lives my condition here, for Edgar Linton's at Thrushcross Grange. If not, I might have had the privilege of flinging Joseph off the highest gable and painting the house front with Hindley's blood. Oh, gosh. Hush, hush, I interrupted. Still, you have not told me, Heathcliff, how Catherine is left behind. I told you we laughed, he answered. The Lintons heard us, and with one accord they shot like arrows to the door. There was silence and then a cry, "Oh, Mama, Mama, Papa! Oh, Mama, come here! Oh, Papa, oh!" They really did howl out something in that way. We made frightful noises to terrify them still more, and then we dropped off the ledge because somebody was drawing the bars, and we felt we had better flee. I had Kathy by the hand and was urging her on, when all at once she fell down. "Run, Heathcliff, run," she whispered. "They have let the bulldog loose, and he holds me." "What's up, Wes? Hi, bud. Come here. Come here. You just gonna chill? You're sleeping?" The devil had seized her ankle. Nellie. I heard this abominable snorting. She did not yell out, no. She did not yell out. Catherine's courage is reminiscent of Emily's own fearlessness with dogs. In one incident later immortalized by Charlotte and Shirley, Emily used a red-hot Italian iron to cauterize a wound she sustained from a dog suspecting of having rabies. In another, she disciplined her dog keeper, well known for his ferocity of nature, by delivering a savage beating with her bare hands before she comforted the chastened animal. Dang! I like Anne. I like Anne's love of dogs. This is crazy. For real, Emily the goat. That's awesome. I like her. She's great. She was a baddie. Yeah, she doesn't cry here. She just yells for Heathcliff to run, and she's just taking a bulldog's bites. She did not yell out, no. She would have scorned to do it if she had been spitted on the horns of a mad cow. I did, though. I vociferated curses enough to annihilate any fiend in Christendom, and I got a stone and thrust it between his jaws and tried with all my might to cram it down his throat. A beast of a servant came up with a lantern at last, shouting. Okay, real quick. If this ever happens to you with a dog, this is easier said than done, obviously. Collapse on it and choke it out. It's really the only way that you can solve a problem like this. You get it in a chokehold and you choke it out if the dog is lashed onto you. Don't try to shove your hand anywhere near the dog's mouth. Don't try to grab it. Don't try to rip the dog's jaws apart. Choke it out. Don't put your finger in the butt like some videos do that people do. There was a video in New York City of these people that got attacked by a dog, where a dog was getting attacked by a pit bull, and these people came and put their finger in the butt. Don't do that. That's absurd. Just go grab the dog, put it in a chokehold, and eventually it will stop. Yes, you do. I guarantee you have enough strength to choke out a dog. Maybe not like a mastiff or like a Dane. Actually, you do a Dane. A Dane's not going to get in an issue like that. Heathcliff at 13 still would probably be able to. This is a bulldog. Was it a bulldog or a pit bull? A bulldog, I think. It said that. A bulldog loose. Let the bulldog loose. A bulldog, you'd be able to do that with. Yeah, your adrenaline kicks in, and you'll be good. But just a quick little tip for you guys, in case a dog attacks you. Keep fast, Skulker. Keep fast. Or a beast of a servant came up with a lantern at last, shouting, "Keep fast, Skulker. Keep fast." Oh, interesting. So the servant's saying, "Keep fast." That's not great. Skulker is actually a great name for bulldogs. A bulldog. Yeah, actually that's true. A bulldog was different before, they demolished bulldogs today. It's a valid point, but still, I still think a 13-year-old could be able to take on a bulldog like that. You just collapse on it, choke it out. He changed his note, however, when he saw Skulker's game. The dog was throttled off, his huge purple tongue hanging half a foot out of his mouth, and his pendant lips streaming with bloody slaver. The man took Kathy up. She was sick, not from fear, I'm certain, but from pain. He carried her in. I followed, grumbling, execrations and vengeance. "What pray, Robert?" hallooed Linton from the entrance. "Skulker has caught a little girl, sir," he replied. "And there's a lad here," he added, making a clutch at me, "who looks an out and outer. Very like the robbers were for putting them through the window to open the doors to the gang after all were asleep. And they might murder us at their ease. Hold your tongue, you foul-mouthed thief, you. You shall go to the gallows for this. Mr. Linton, sir, don't lay by your gun." Now, this is interesting, too, because these two, Catherine and Heathcliff, they're the same age. These people look at Catherine and they're like, she's gonna murder us maybe, but really these alarms are going off all the time now. Also, Wes is having a little dinner right now, if you can hear his little chomps. Yeah, an out and outer, I feel like that is a term for a foreigner. That's why I feel like they just immediately recognize that this guy they're potentially not siblings, and this guy is, I feel like there's a little bit of racism right here. Come on, fire station. All right, let's finish this chapter up. No, Robert, said the old fool. The rascals knew that yesterday was my rent day. They thought to have me cleverly. Come in, I'll furnish them a reception. There, John, fasten the chain. Give Skulker some water, Jenny. To beard a magistrate in his stronghold, and on the Sabbath too. Where will the insolence stop? Oh, my dear Mary, look here. Don't be afraid. It is but a boy. Yet the villain scowls so plainly in his face. Would it not be a kindness to this country to hang him at once before he shows his nature in acts as well as in features? He pulled me under the chandelier, and Mrs. Linton placed her spectacles on her nose and raised her hands in horror. The cowardly children crept nearer also, Isabella lisping. Frightful thing. Put him in the cellar, Papa. He's exactly like the son of the fortune-teller that stole my tame pheasant. Isn't he, Edgar? While they examined me, Kathy came round. She heard the last speech and laughed. Edgar Linton, after an inquisitive stare, collected sufficient wit to recognize her. They see us at church, you know, though we seldom meet them elsewhere. That's Miss Earnshaw, he whispered to his mother. And look how Skulker has bitten her. How her foot bleeds. Miss Earnshaw, nonsense, cried the dame. Miss Earnshaw scouring the country with a gypsy. Miss Earnshaw scouring the country with a gypsy. And yet, my dear, the child is in mourning. Surely it is, and she may be lamed for life. Interesting. What culpable carelessness in her brother, examined Mr. Linton, turning from me to Catherine. I've understood from my shielders, that was the curate, sir, that he let her grow up in absolute heathenism. But who is this? Where did she pick up this companion? Oh, I declare he is a strange acquisition my late neighbor made in his journey to Liverpool. A little Lascar, or an American or Spanish castaway. Lascar means... What does it mean? An East Indian seaman. Interesting. Okay, now we're getting into it. An out-and-outer is one who goes to extremes. Okay, interesting. I'm going with Heathcliff. Looking a bit like Javier Bardem. Honestly, that's decent. I feel like Dev Patel might be more accurate. Depends on where from India. East Indian. East Indian at this time could be... How large is the territory, or how large is the country of England or India? Gosh. Liverpool, Port City. Interesting. It's all kind of coming together. They would not have been recognized as landowners' children, yeah. Yeah, would it be Pakistan? Okay. All the way to Malaysia. Interesting, okay. Interesting, okay. That's really fascinating, actually. Okay. Let's keep reading. A wicked boy, at all events, remarked the old lady, and quite unfit for a decent house. Did you notice his language, Linton? I'm shocked that my children should have heard it. I recommend cursing. Don't be angry, Nellie. I recommenced cursing. Don't be angry, Nellie. And so Robert was ordered to take me off. I refused to go without Kathy. He dragged me into the garden, pushed the lantern into my hand, assured me that Mr. Earnshaw would be informed of my behavior, and bidding me march, directly secured the door again. The curtains were still looped up at one corner, and I resumed my station as spy, because if Catherine had wished to return, I intended shattering their great glass panes to a million fragments unless they let her out. I'm not going to say that they're likable, but I like Heathcliff and Catherine right now. They're like two little, I mean, not little kids, but they're two kids that are just running around, taking on the world together. Everyone else around them right now is nuts. I do love that he was going to break her out. He was going to shatter the windows if they didn't let her out. That's a loyalty that I really love. Again, trauma bonding, it could be, they're bonded in some way. whether by their trauma, which probably is likely the case, but they were friends before that. So there's some kind of loyalty that they have. I don't mind. It's just, yeah, I really do need a interesting with a lot of eyes on it. I should rename the channel. Interesting. I love it. It's gonna be the keyword on this channel. It's a nothing word. It doesn't mean anything, but it's still fun. I like saying it. And she told him to run to save himself. Yeah, there's like a little bit of a beauty in that, I will say. I like them most right now. They're still a little crazy, but all the other characters are a little bit more nuts in this. It's just sad that they don't really have like a proper parental figure. When Lockwood was first in the creepy room, didn't we learn how Kathy felt about Heathcliff? The more people like the stream, the more you interesting. Yeah, everyone liked the stream. Okay, let's keep reading. She sat on the sofa quietly. Mrs. Linton took off the gray cloak of the dairymaid which we had borrowed for our excursion, shaking her head and expostulating with her, I suppose. She was a young lady, and they made a distinction between her treatment and mine. The woman servant brought a basin of warm water and washed her feet, and Mr. Linton mixed a tumbler of negus, which is hot wine and water. And Isabella emptied a plateful of cakes into her lap, and Edgar stood gaping at a distance. Afterwards, they dried and combed her beautiful hair and gave her a pair of enormous slippers and wheeled her to the fire. And I left her, as merry as she could be, dividing her food between the little dog and Skulker, whose nose she pinched as he ate. And kindling a spark of spirit in the vacant blue eyes of the Lintons, a dim reflection from her own enchanting face, I saw they were full of stupid admiration. She is so immeasurably superior to them, to everybody on earth, is she not, Nellie? Huh. So he thinks very highly of Catherine. And Catherine just kind of radiates everywhere she goes. There is something crazy going on in my town right now because there are fire alarms, there are fire trucks, there are cop cars zooming everywhere. Yikes. See, this is interesting. Like, again, yeah, Kathy even made it up to Skulker. I think the relationship of dogs in this novel is taking a very important position. Like, she's so good and she's got kind that she can actually forgive this dog. I really love this. Probably not a wildfire, but maybe. You never know. In February in freezing weather. We have them. But it hasn't been that dry, so I doubt it. What do you mean you can't trust dogs? You can always trust dogs. There will more come of this business than you reckon on, I answered, covering him up and extinguishing the light. You are incurable, Heathcliff, and Mr. Hingley will have to proceed to extremities. See if he won't. My words came truer than I desired. The luckless adventure made Earnshaw furious, and then Mr. Linton, to mend matters, paid a visit himself on the morrow, and read the young master such a lecture on the road he guided his family that he was stirred to look about him in earnest. Heathcliff received no flogging, but he was told that the first word he spoke to Miss Catherine should ensure a dismissal. The first word he spoke to Miss Catherine should ensure a dismissal, and Mr. Earnshaw undertook to keep her sister-in-law in due restraint. Mrs. Earnshaw. When she returned home, employing art, not force. With force, she would have found it impossible. What is this paragraph talking about? Heathcliff received no flogging, but he was told that the first word he spoke to Miss Catherine should ensure a dismissal. So Heathcliff is going to get thrown out if she speaks to Kathy. And then Mrs. Earnshaw undertook to keep her sister-in-law in due restraint. Her sister-in-law? Kathy in due restraint when she returned home, employing art, not force. With force, she would have found it impossible. Okay, now I get it. Sorry. I don't know why that took me such a long time. I got thrown off by the Mrs. Earnshaw thing. But that's Hindley's wife. Gotcha. So they're just separating them. Okay, that makes sense. Interesting. I will say, I like them as kids. They're kind of like taking on the world together. Taking on the moors together. They have genuine affection for each other. They're getting through problems together. There's a sweetness to it. Okay. Let's finish this off. Chapter 7. Kathy stayed at Thrushcross Grange 5 weeks till Christmas. By that time, her ankle was thoroughly cured, and her manners much improved. I think that they're going to just adopt her. The mistress visited her often. The mistress? The mistress? The mistress visited her often, in the interval, and commenced her plan of reform by trying to raise her self-respect with fine clothing and flattery, which she took readily, so that instead of a wild, hatless little savage jumping into the house and rushing to squeeze us all breathless, there lighted from a handsome black pony a very dignified person, with brown ringlets falling from the cover of a feathered beaver, and a long cloth habit, which she was obliged to hold up with both hands that she might sail in. Mrs. Earnshaw. Okay, Hindley's wife. Okay. Okay, this is interesting. Hindley lifted her from her horse, exclaiming delightedly, "Why, Kathy, you are quite a beauty. I should scarcely have known you. You look like a lady now. Isabella Linton is not to be compared with her, is she, Francis?" So Francis is his wife's name. Let me write that down. Hindley marries Francis. Francis is the mistress. Thank ya. It's in again the perspectives that she's telling this novel through are really interesting because we're getting it through people that don't like them. I wish she wrote like another novel that we get through the eyes of Kathy. Isabella has not her natural advantages, replied his wife, but she must mind and not grow wild again here. Ellen, help Miss Catherine off with her things. Stay, dear, you will disarrange your curls. Let me untie your hat. I removed the habit, and there shone forth beneath a grand plaid silk frock, white trousers, and burnished shoes. And while her eyes sparkled joyfully when the dogs came bounding up to welcome her, she dared hardly touch them, lest they should fawn upon her splendid garments. She kissed me gently. I was all flour making the Christmas cake, and it would not have done to give me a hug. And then she looked round for Heathcliff. Mr. and Mrs. Earnshaw watched anxiously their meeting, thinking it would enable them to judge in some measure what grounds they had for hoping to succeed in separating the two friends. Heathcliff was hard to discover at first. If he were careless and uncared for before Catherine's absence, he had been 10 times more so since. Nobody but I even did the kindness to call him a dirty boy, and bid him wash himself once a week. The children of his age seldom have a natural pleasure in soap and water. Therefore, not to mention his clothes, which had seen 3 months' service in mire and dust, and his thick uncombed hair, the surface of his face and hands was dismally beclouded. He might well skulk behind the settle on beholding such a bright, graceful damsel enter the house, instead of a rough-headed counterpart to himself, as he expected. "Is Heathcliff not here?" she demanded, pulling off her gloves and displaying fingers wonderfully, whitened with doing nothing and staying indoors. "Heathcliff, you may come forward," cried Mr. Hindley, enjoying his discomfiture, and gratified to see what a forbidding young blackguard he would be compelled to present himself. "You may come and wish Miss Catherine welcome like the other servants." Cathy, catching a glimpse of her friend in his concealment, flew to embrace him. She bestowed 7 or 8 kisses on his cheek within the second, and then stopped, and drawing back, burst into a laugh, exclaiming, "Why, how very black and cross you look, and how funny and grim. But that's because I'm used to Edgar and to Isabella Linton. Well, Heathcliff, have you forgotten me?" She had some reason to put the question, for shame and pride threw double gloom over his countenance and kept him immovable. "Shake hands, Heathcliff," said Mr. Earnshaw condescendingly. "Once in a way, that is permitted." "I shall not," replied the boy, finding his tongue at last. "I shall not stand to be laughed at. I shall not bear it." And he would have broken from the circle, but Miss Cathy seized him again. "I did not mean to laugh at you," she said. "I could not hinder myself. Heathcliff, shake hands at least. What are you sulky for? Or what are you sulky for? It was only that you looked odd. If you wash your face and brush your hair, it will be all right. You are so dirty." Interesting. Hindley is really the worst in this. So Hindley is like, this really is just generational trauma. Hindley is holding a grudge because his father loved Heathcliff more, and now he's taking it all out on Heathcliff. He's, I guess technically really his brother. Not like, maybe not legitimately. But if it was christened, maybe it was legitimate. Depending on what we say christened was. And now this whole thing is a crapshoot because of this. Because he just can't get rid of a grudge. And he's like, it's like almost thrilling him to do this, which is pretty gross. I don't like him. I don't like Hindley. You stink. She gazed concernedly at the dusky fingers she held in her own, and also at her dress, which she feared had gained no embellishment from its contact with his. "You needn't have touched me," he answered, following her eye and snatching away his hand. "I shall be as dirty as I please, and I like to be dirty, and I will be dirty." With that, he dashed head foremost out of the room amid the merriment of the master and mistress, and to the serious disturbance of Catherine, who could not comprehend how her remarks should have produced such an exhibition of bad temper. I mean, they're children, so they're not going to understand this. But he's been dealing with like hell for a few weeks. It's a fair question to ask. Would he be awful? I think he would be a bit more. So it's a fascinating question. If Hindley wasn't awful to him, I mean, like that's like the whole thing. Like if they just lived in perfect harmony, nothing would probably be wrong. But if Hindley was less mean to him, I think Heathcliff would learn to be more of a manipulator rather than a lone wolf. Because right now I feel like he's going into that mode where the world has wronged him, and so he's just going to do this on his own. He's going to say screw you to everyone else, and he's probably just going to bring Kathy back into his life every so often. But he does genuinely like her, but he's like he's been hurt because he hasn't been able to see her. They're I guess they're like being prohibited from being friends anymore. And now she comes back, laughs, not really at him, but like is trying to maybe be friends. And he's like, I just had like the worst few weeks of my life, and now you're coming and just laughing at me. It's like he's offended. Yeah, it's like a shock for him. He just sees her changed. Yeah, again, they're very young. It's 5 weeks, which doesn't feel like that much time, but really it is for when you're that young. They're young, impressionable kids. Lou, welcome. We still have like another 10 pages. So sit back and enjoy. Yeah, she said in her diary how sad she was to be separated. Interesting. Like the narration is just still throwing me off a little bit. I like it because it's like a story within a story, so you're a little bit more on edge. That's actually interesting that you mentioned that too. That Kathy has a bit of a chameleon streak. I feel like you're right. I feel like she kind of just blends in wherever she goes. She's a bit like a wallflower to some extent, but like I think that's offensive to Heathcliff, who just, to be honest, he seems like he is who he is. He's not like that. And so when Kathy becomes friends with him when he's a kid, he's like, oh, this is great. Finally, someone like me. But Kathy's like, I can adapt and change wherever I go. Yeah, your friend goes away from the summer and comes back changed. Honestly, that's a great analogy for that. He's offended, but I think that is a misunderstanding between them. He will be sacked if he acts like they were. She doesn't know that. Ooh, that's actually a fantastic point too. He could potentially be protecting her in this. It's interesting. Interesting. All right, let's keep reading. It's fun to discuss this. There's like a lot more. One thing that I like about this is this feels a lot more interpretive than Pride and Prejudice. Like from Pride and Prejudice, we like characters and don't like characters, and we have bases for why we like those characters and don't. This one feels like you can read a certain thing a certain way, and another person could read it totally different. And obviously every book does that, but it feels a little bit more interpretive than Pride and Prejudice does. Yeah, they're the only friends that they've had, or for him. Yeah, I'm kind of with you too. Heathcliff, but at the same point, who didn't do this when they were 12 years old? Like it's unfair for Heathcliff to do that, but we've all kind of been there, and I think that kind of just still hurts, and you just have like a quick grudge against someone. Like Emily Bronte, I think understands kids like that pretty well. Like this seems like very typical child behavior. I mean, it's adult behavior too. Sometimes we do this as adults. It's interesting. It's good. All right, let's keep reading. Um, After playing lady's maid to the newcomer and putting my cakes in the oven and making the house and kitchen cheerful with great fires befitting Christmas Eve, I prepared to sit down and amuse myself by singing carols all alone, regardless of Joseph's affirmations that he considered the merry tunes I chose as next door to songs. Songs to... According to Joseph's religious views, song singing is a frivolous and sinful pastime. Gosh. Come on, dude. Ugh. I really don't like Joseph. Um, with his actions. All right. He had retired to private prayer in his chamber, and Mr. and Mrs. Earnshaw were engaging Missy's attention by sundry gay trifles bought for her to present to the little Lintons as an acknowledgment of their kindness. They had invited them to spend the morrow at Wuthering Heights, and the invitation had been accepted on one condition. Mrs. Linton begged that her darlings might be kept carefully apart from that naughty, swearing boy. Ay, poor Heathcliff. Okay, interesting. I just keep thinking, it's like, this obviously doesn't fully explain why Heathcliff is the way that he is at the beginning of this novel, but it makes me understand why he's on the bed screaming for her. Joseph sounds like an Anabaptist. Yeah, Mr. Collins did dance, it's true. He's a Calvinist for sure. Like, they were just like partners in crime, and then they're separated, not necessarily because of Catherine's doings, but he feels like that's like the only person that he really knows in the world. Under these circumstances, I remained solitary. I smelt the rich scent of the heating spices. I admired the shining kitchen utensils, the polished clock, decked in holly, the silver mugs ranged on a tray ready to be filled with mulled ale for supper, and above all, the speckless purity of my particular care, the scoured and well-swept floor. I gave due inward applause to every object, and then I remembered how old Earnshaw used to come in when all was tidied and call me cant lass, lively, merry, or brisk, and slip a shilling into my hand as a Christmas box. And from that, I went on to think of his fondness for Heathcliff, and his dread lest he should suffer neglect after death had removed him. And that naturally led me to consider the poor lad's situation now, and from singing I changed my mind to crying. It struck me soon, however, there would be no more sense in endeavoring to repair some of his wrongs than shedding tears over them. I got up and walked into the court to seek him. He was not far. I found him smoothing the glossy coat of a new pony in the stable and feeding the other beasts according to custom. "Make haste, Heathcliff," I said. "The kitchen is so comfortable, and Joseph is upstairs. Make haste, and let me dress you smart before Miss Cathy comes out. And then you can sit together with the whole hearth to yourselves and have long chatter till bedtime." He proceeded with his task and never turned his head toward me. "Come, are you coming?" I continued. "There's a little cake for each of you, nearly enough, and you'll need half an hour's donning. Dressing. Come on, we know what donning means. Come on, footnotes." I waited 5 minutes, but getting no answer, left him. He's just offended. He's a little silent treatment right now. Who among us hasn't done this as a kid? Catherine supped with her brother and sister-in-law. Joseph and I joined at an unsociable meal, seasoned with reproofs on one side and sauciness on the other. His cake and cheese remained on the table all night for the fairies. The fairies! He managed to continue work till 9 o'clock, and then marched dumb and dour to his chamber. Cathy sat up late, having a world of things to order for the reception of her new friends. She came into the kitchen once to speak to her old one, but he was gone, and she only stayed to ask what was the matter with him, and then went back. In the morning he rose early, and, as it was a holiday, carried his ill humor onto the moors, not reappearing till the family were departed for church. Fasting and reflecting seemed to have brought him to a better spirit. He hung about me for a while, and having screwed up his courage, exclaimed abruptly, "Nellie, make me decent. I'm going to be good." Interesting. "High time, Heathcliff," I said. "You have grieved Catherine. She's sorry she ever came home, I dare say. It looks as if you have envied her, because she is more thought of than you." The notion of envying Catherine was incomprehensible to him, but the notion of grieving her he understood clearly enough. That's an interesting line. The notion of envying Catherine was incomprehensible. He doesn't want the Catherine treatment, but he's grieved that his friend is gone. She wants the feral Catherine back. Yeah, for sure. "Did she say she was grieved?" he inquired, looking very serious. "She cried when I told her you were off again this morning." "Well, I cried last night," he returned, "and I had more reason to cry than she." Did she cry? Huh. I mean, possibly. I don't think so. That's not said in the text. So is she just saying this to make Heathcliff feel better? I mean, she's saying it here, but it doesn't happen when that happened prior. It's a great point, Samara. Well, they actually are animal lovers. An animal lover in a book like this. Yeah, I don't think she cried. She's kind of being a little manipulative there. Placating. "Yes, you had reason of going to bed with a proud heart and an empty stomach," said I. "Proud people breed sad sorrows for themselves. But if you be ashamed of your touchiness, you must ask pardon mine when she comes in. You must go up and offer to kiss her and say, you know best what to say. Only do it heartily, and not as if you thought her converted into a stranger by her grand dress. And now, though I have dinner to get ready, I'll steal time to arrange you so that Edgar Linton shall look quite a doll beside you. And that he does. You are younger, and yet I'll be bound. You are taller and twice as broad across the shoulders, and could knock him down in a twinkling. Don't you feel that you could?" Heathcliff's face brightened for a moment. That's a dangerous thing to say for someone. Heathcliff's face brightened for a moment. Then it was overcast afresh, and he sighed. "But Nellie, if I knocked him down 20 times, that would make him less handsome, or me more so. Or that wouldn't make him less handsome, or me more so. I wish I had light hair and a fair skin. And was dressed and well behaved as well. And had a chance of being as rich as he will be." That's sad. "And cried for Mama at every turn," I added, "and trembled if a country lad heaved his fist against you, and sat at home all day for a shower of rain. Oh, Heathcliff, you are showing a poor spirit. Come to the glass, and I'll let you see what you should wish. Do you mark those 2 lines between your eyes and those thick brows that instead of rising arch sink in the middle? And that couple of black fiends, so deeply buried, who never open their windows boldly, but lurking, glinting under them like devil's spies? Wish and learn to smooth away the surly wrinkles, and raise your lids frankly, and change the fiends to confident, innocent angels, suspecting and doubting nothing, and always seeing friends where they are not sure of foes. Don't get the expression of a vicious cur that appears to know the kick it gets are its dessert, and yet hates all the world as well as the kicker for what it suffers. In other words, I must wish for Edgar Linton's great blue eyes and even forehead, he replied. I do, and that won't help me to them. Huh. A good heart will help you to a bonny face, my lad. I continued. If you are a regular black, and a bad one will turn the bonniest. Interesting. Hold on. A good heart will help you to a bonny face, my lad. I continued. If you are a regular black, and a bad one will turn the bonniest into something worse than ugly. And now that you've done washing and combing and sulking, tell me whether you don't think yourself rather handsome. Now, that's an interesting line. So, am I wrong in... So he's not an African black? Is he more just like... I think he's just Indian, so he's brown. That's like you can see like even her racism popping up in this. Like she has like a hierarchical order in her head of what comes here. A little bit more tannish, yeah. Tell me whether you don't think yourself rather handsome. I'll tell you, I do. You're fit for a prince in disguise. Who knows, but your father was emperor of China and your mother an Indian queen. Each of them able to buy up, with 1 week's income, Wuthering Heights and Thrushcross Grange together. And you were kidnapped by wicked sailors and brought to England. Were I in your place, I would frame high notions of my birth, and the thoughts of what I should give me courage and dignity to support the oppressions of a little farmer. Black might have meant dark-haired. He's not Jacob Lordy for sure. So I chattered on, and Heathcliff gradually lost his frown and began to look quite pleasant, when, all at once, our conversation was interrupted by a rumbling sound moving up the road and entering the court. He ran to the window and I to the door, just in time to behold the two Lintons descend from the family carriage, smothered in cloaks and furs, and the Earnshaws dismounted from their horses. They often rode to church in winter. Catherine took a handful of each of the children. Catherine took a hand of each of the children and brought them into the house and set them before the fire, which quickly put color into their white faces. I urged my companion to hasten now and show his amiable humor, and he willingly obeyed. But ill luck would have it that as he opened the door leading from the kitchen on one side, Hindley opened it on the other. They met, and the master, irritated at seeing him clean and cheerful, or perhaps eager to keep his promise to Mrs. Linton, shoved him back with a sudden thrust, and angrily bade Joseph keep the fellow out of the room, send him into the garret till dinner is over. He'll be cramming his fingers in the tarts and stealing the fruit, if left alone with them a minute. I wonder if he's going to kill Hindley. Like when he's older, is he going to get revenge on him? Nay, sir, I could not avoid answering. He'll touch nothing. Not he. And I suppose he must have his share of the dainties as well as we. He shall have his share of my hand if I catch him downstairs again till dark, cried Hindley. Begone, you vagabond. What are you attempting, you coxcomb? What are you attempting, the coxcomb, are you? Wait, what? You are attempting the coxcomb, are you? What does that mean? Wait till I get a hold of these elegant locks. See if I won't pull them a bit longer. They are long enough already, observed Master Linton, peeping from the doorway. I wonder they don't make his head ache. It's like a colt's mane over his eyes. He ventured this remark without any intention to insult, but Heathcliff's violent nature was not prepared to endure the appearance of impertinence from one whom he had seemed to hate, even then as a rival. He seized a tureen of hot applesauce, the first thing that came under his grip, or his gripe, and dashed it full against the speaker's face and neck, who instantly commenced the lament that brought Isabella and Catherine hurrying to the place. Mr. Earnshaw snatched up the culprit directly and conveyed him to his chamber, where doubtless he administered a rough remedy to cool the fit of passion. For he reappeared, red and breathless. I got the dishcloth and rather spitefully scrubbed Edgar's nose and mouth, affirming it served him right for meddling. His sister began weeping to go home, and Kathy stood by confounded, blushing for all. Huh. What are the Linton coxcomb is styled hair. Okay, thank you. What are the Lintons what are their names again? What are the parents' names again? Yeah, it sounds like a happy Christmas they're having over there. um You should not have spoken to him, she expostulated with Master Linton. He was in a bad temper, and now you've spoiled your visit, and he'll be flogged. I hate him to be flogged. I can't eat my dinner. Why did you speak to him, Edgar? Mr. and Mistress Linton. Okay, perfect. I didn't, sobbed the youth, escaping from my hands, and finishing the remainder of the purification with his cambric pocket handkerchief. I promised Mama that I wouldn't say one word to him, and I didn't. Well, don't cry, replied Catherine contemptuously. You're not killed. Don't make more mischief. My brother is coming. Be quiet. Give over, Isabella. Has anybody hurt you? There, children, to your seats, cried Hindley, bustling in. That brute of a lad has warmed me nicely. Next time, Master Edgar, take the law into your own fists. It will give you an appetite. Gosh. The little party recovering. That's actually really funny. That's a weird line to say that to a child. But to some extent, it can work at sometimes. I remember there was one day that I was sitting right here. I had my next door neighbors. They were a strange couple, but they had a bunch of kids. And I remember one time they had like a party in their back lawn, and I was just sitting here doing work, and all of a sudden, two of his daughters got in a fight. They were little daughters. I think like one was probably 8, the other one was like maybe 9 or 10. And all of a sudden, I hear him yell over the lawn at his daughters. I forgot what their names were. I wouldn't say their names either. He was like, "You go ahead and punch her. Go ahead and punch her." And I'm sitting there going, wait, what the heck is going on? And he goes, "I want you to hit your sister." And he goes, "You see how both of you are looking stupid, not hitting each other? That's how you look to us." And I was sitting there going, what the heck is this kind of parenting right now going on? But it worked because he was like, "See how stupid you guys look? You guys aren't fighting because you realize that fighting's stupid and it doesn't do anything. You don't want to hit each other. So get over yourselves." I was like, there's like crazy parenting in that, but he like called their bluff because they were like getting in a fight, but they really didn't want to get in a fight. So he like called their bluff and was like, you guys aren't going to actually hit each other. So just get over yourselves. It was wild parenting. I remember sitting here, my jaw was like slowly unhinging. I was like, wow, that's a move. All right, let's keep reading. Got a few more pages left. The little party recovered its equanimity. Equanimity, gosh, at sight of the fragrant feast. They were hungry after their ride, and easily consoled, since no real harm had befallen them. Mr. Earnshaw carved bountiful platefuls, and the mistress made them merry with lively talk. I waited behind her chair, and was pained to behold Catherine, with dry eyes and an indifferent air, commence cutting up the wing of a goose before her. An unfeeling child, I thought to myself. How lightly she dismissed her old playmate's troubles. I could not have imagined her to be so selfish. She lifted a mouthful to her lips, then set it down again. Her cheeks flushed, and the tears gushed over them. She slipped her fork to the floor and hastily dived under the cloth to conceal her emotion. I did not call her unfeeling long, for I perceived she was in a purgatory through the day, and wearying to find an opportunity of getting by herself or paying a visit to Heathcliff, who had been locked up by the master. I discovered on endeavoring to introduce him to a private mess of victuals. In the evening we had a dance. Cathy begged that he might be liberated then, as Illabella Linton had no partner. Her entreaties were in vain. I was appointed to supply the deficiency. We got rid of all the gloom and the excitement of the exercise. And our pleasure was increased by the arrival of the Gimmerton band, mustering 15 strong, a trumpet, a trombone, clarinets, bassoons, French horns, and a bass viol, besides singers. They go round to all the respectable houses and receive contributions every Christmas, and we esteemed it a first-rate treat to hear them. After the usual carols had been sung, we set them to songs and glees. Mrs. Earnshaw loved the music, and so they gave us plenty. Catherine loved it too, but she said it sounded sweetest at the top of the steps, and she went up in the dark. I followed. They shut the house door below, never noticing our absence. It was so full of people. She made no stay at the stairs head, but mounted farther, to the garret where Heathcliff was confined, and called him. He stubbornly declined answering for a while. She persevered, and finally persuaded him to hold communion with her through the boards. I let the poor thing converse unmolested, till I supposed the songs were going to cease, and the singers to get some refreshment. Then I clambered up the ladder to warn her. Instead of finding her outside, I heard her voice within. The little monkey had crept by the skylight of one garret, along the roof, into the skylight of the other, and it was with the most difficulty I could coax her out again. When she did come, Heathcliff came with her, and she insisted that I should take him into the kitchen, as my fellow servant had gone to a neighbor's to be removed from the sound of our devil's psalmody, as it pleased him to call it. I told them I intended by no means to encourage their tricks, but as the prisoner had never broken his fast since yesterday's dinner, I would wink at his cheating Mr. Hindley that once. He went down. I set him a stool by the fire, and offered him a quantity of good things, but he was sick and could eat little, and my attempts to entertain him were thrown away. He leant his 2 elbows on his knees, and his chin on his hands, and remained wrapped in dumb meditation. On my inquiring the subject of his thought, he answered gravely, "I'm trying to settle how I shall pay Hindley back. I don't care how long I wait. If I can only do it at last, I hope he will not die before I do it." "For shame, Heathcliff," said I. "It is for God to punish wicked people. We shall learn to forgive." Interesting. She's not wrong. The whole novel could have been solved just that one little bit. I mean, not really, because Hindley would still be awful to him all the time. Hindley's really this not the source of all this. I think the father's really the source of all this. Again, what a mess. Gosh. It's actually an interesting question. Maybe this is a sadder point. If Heathcliff forgives Hindley in this moment, nothing changes. He still gets abused and gets neglected and gets demolished, and Hindley is just still evil and pouring out his wrath on him. But revenge also isn't going to get you very far. So what does he do here? It's a tough question, to be completely honest. Yeah, it is such a good point, Sarah, too. Everyone is so religious in this novel, and no one is. Like, what is true religion, I guess? This is what the question for some of this novel is. One second, writing a note. Yeah, Hindley doesn't change at all. What does he do? Like, wandering around in the moors doesn't feel like a possibility. It doesn't feel like there's a lot there, but you never know. I don't know. We'll see. All right, let's keep going. No, God won't have the satisfaction that I shall, he returned. I only wish I knew the best way. Let me alone, and I'll plan it out. While I'm thinking of that, I don't feel pain. That doesn't sound healthy. Hindley's making him into this person, but man, it is. Some of these books are sad to see how certain children deal with abuse and neglect. This is like more acute. This is like grudge, bullying, one specific person. Like, Hindley is kind of awful in general, but he's really awful toward Heathcliff. It's like taking out all his anger on one person. Man. While I'm thinking of that, I don't feel pain. That doesn't sound healthy. But, Mr. Lockwood, I forget these tales cannot divert you. I'm annoyed how I should dream of chatterings at such a rate. And your gruel cold, and you nodding for bed. I have told Heathcliff's history, all that you need to hear, in half a dozen words. Thus interrupting herself, the housekeeper rose and proceeded to lay aside her sewing. But I felt incapable of moving from the hearth, and I was very far from nodding. Sit still, Mrs. Dean, I cried. Do sit still another half hour. You've done just right to tell me the story leisurely. That is the method I like. And you must finish in the same style. I am interested in every character you have mentioned, more or less. The clock is on the stroke of 11, sir. No matter, I am not accustomed to go to bed in the long hours. 1 or 2 is nearly enough for a person who lies till 10. You shouldn't lie till 10. There's the very prime of the morning gone long before that time. A person who has not done 1 half day's work by 10 o'clock runs a chance of leaving the other half undone. Nevertheless, Mrs. Dean, resume your chair. Is just going to tell me what a chair is? Resume your chair. Lockwood's failure to understand or respect the ways of the country into which he has come is indicated by his thoughtlessness about Nellie's inability to modify her hours of sleep. That's a great point, actually. That's a good footnote. I like that footnote. Wait, where are we? Because tomorrow I intend lengthening the night till afternoon. I prognosticate for myself an obstinate cold at least. I hope not, sir. Well, you must allow me to leap over some 3 years during that space. Mrs. Earnshaw. Oh no, I'll allow nothing of the sort. Are you acquainted with the mood of mind in which, if you were seated alone, and the cat licking its kitten on the rug before you would watch the operation so intently that puss's neglect of one ear would put you seriously out of temper? A terribly lazy mood, I should say. On the contrary, a tiresome active one. It is mine at present, and therefore can continue minutely. I perceive that people in these regions acquire over people in towns the value that a spider in a dungeon does over a spider in a cottage to the various occupants. And yet the deepened attraction is not entirely owing to the situation of the looker on. They do live more in earnest, more in themselves, and less in surface change. And frivolous external things, I could fancy a love for life here almost possible. And I was a fixed unbeliever in any love of a year's standing. One state resembles setting a hungry man down to a single dish on which he may concentrate his entire appetite and do it justice. The other, introducing him to a table laid out by French cooks. He can perhaps extract as much enjoyment from the whole, but each part is a mere atom in his regard and his regard and remembrance. Oh, here we are at the same as anywhere else. When you get to know us, observed Mrs. Dean, somewhat puzzled at my speech. Excuse me, I responded. You, my good friend, are a striking evidence against that assertion. Excepting a few provincialisms of slight consequence, you have no marks of the manners that I am habituated to consider as peculiar to your class. I am sure you have thought a great deal more than the generality of servants think. You have been compelled to cultivate your reflective faculties, for want of occasions for frittering your life away in silly trifles. Mrs. Dean laughed. I certainly esteem myself a steady, reasonable kind of body, she said. Not exactly from living among the hills and seeing one set of faces and one series of actions from year's end to year's end. But I have undergone sharp discipline, which has taught me wisdom, and then I have read more than you would fancy, Mr. Lockwood. You cannot open a book in this library that I have not looked into, and gotten something out of also, unless it be that range of Greek and Latin, and that of French, and those I know from one another, as much as you can expect a poor man's daughter. However, if I am to follow my story in true gossip's fashion, I had better go on, and instead of leaping 3 years, I will be content to pass the next summer, the summer of 1778. That is nearly 23 years ago. Interesting. Yeah, Lockwood is just like annoying. Lockwood just doesn't, he's so socially, it's funny in both Austen and Bronte's work, it's the people who say they're socially adept that are not socially adept at all. They don't know what they're doing socially. They're like so out of sorts. Like he needs to understand the society that he's in. Yeah, Joseph is the old one, but he's not really giving them like a good parental guidance here. Yeah, he is kind of like a little like Sir William Lucas for sure. Just he's like absent-minded, doesn't really understand, but he just likes a little bit of hot gossip. He likes some good gossip. He's like, please stay up, tell me another 30 minutes, please. Yeah, he just proved what he was saying by contradicting her. Lockwood's more infuriating than Collins. Honestly, he is a pretty annoying character. I don't really like him all that much. He's just socially so unaware. He's just such a strange character. I like the novel more now. Doesn't feel quite as cold. It's still it's like, which is weird because Pride and Prejudice felt so tangled, but this feels more tangled. Like I don't know that much about Dickens' work, but I know that he writes a lot about orphans. I guess this is a big thing in life in England at this time. This seems like total, like, I think Dickens is apparently a very funny and humorous writer, and like he writes with a lot of like, a lot of humor. This is not humor. This is like a bleak depiction of an orphan who's questionable if that he's an orphan or not, coming into this house and just completely falling into this terrible family cycle that was caused by Hindley's father, and now it's Hindley himself, and now he's stuck here. Like, I don't think there's any escaping the moors. Like, where is he going to run to? He was told he wouldn't be welcome at Wuthering Heights and still went anyway. And he was astonished he wasn't welcome. But I'm liking it. Well, I mean, that's a weird. Like, I don't know if I like it. It's interestingly written. Like, I don't mind the writing, and it's just keeping me intrigued in what's going on. Megan, good luck. You can catch up to where we are. On Friday, we're going to do chapters 8 to maybe 10 or 11. We'll see. How many chapters? How many chapters are we going to do? Let's determine it now. Friday morning. We're going to do this Friday morning. I know, just as I was saying that. 1776, baby. 1778. All right, we'll do chapter, what is 8? 9's a long one. Well, 8 to 10, because it's long. It is a lot of reading. But we'll give it a shot. Yeah, speed read it. Listen to it on Audible. Go get even just like do a little Spark Notes. Go quick. Read some Spark Notes of this section. That's terrible. I probably shouldn't say that on the books channel. Introduce a new concept of empathy. Interesting. Yeah, I think you have. I think it's the same. I feel like I have like an appreciation of these books, not necessarily like a love of this one right now. I appreciate the writing style. It's interesting. You're gonna finish the book before our next live stream. Okay, good. That you can filter out any spoilers. Yeah, I like that. Refuse to spark note. We don't spark note here. We enjoy books, and if we don't enjoy them, we force ourselves to enjoy them. That should be the motto of the book club. We enjoy books here, and if we don't enjoy them, we force ourselves to enjoy them. Positivism eventually brought books written in the first person to change social perception. Friday we'll do it at maybe like 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Are we in Eastern Time or Eastern Standard Time? Unless the writing is terrible, for sure. Yeah, read to enjoy or read to rant. I actually like that too. That's crazy that you've never DNF'd a book. I have many a book. Yeah, if you don't like the stream, you'll force yourself to like it. All right, guys, I'm going to jump off. I'm going to go eat some food. And then go hang out with Wes a little bit. He's just laying on the bed, all tired. It's Eastern Standard Time right now. I can't wait till we get back to Eastern Time. It's getting lighter. We're almost at a lighter time of the day. I'm very excited for more light. All right, guys, I'll see you guys on Friday. Hopefully, make sure we should have homework. Everyone write an essay on what you think of Heathcliff and Kathy's relationship right now. Yeah, I think it's gonna be Friday at like 10:30 a.m. my time, Eastern Time. Yeah, Standard Time is better in the South, but nah. Normal time is better up here. All right, guys, have a good night. I'll see you guys on Friday on the flip side. Peace. Oh yeah, I was actually gonna say that I've been out of commission of the Discord, but I'm gonna go read it in a bit. I'm gonna go eat some food and then read it. So I'll be able to catch up with you guys later.